Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're
Here we
back.
are. We're here.
Dave's on a machine that may or may not freeze in any time. So we're looking forward to that.
So we got the chair behind you prepared.
All right. Hey, we got Duluth Conservative here. We're here to talk about stories you may or may not have heard of, and have a little fun with it, and just kind of go around and talk about things that are happening in Duluth, Minnesota, some Minnesota bills, some national news, and just kind of talk about things that, like I said, you may or may not hear about in the regular news. So anything to say before we begin, Dave?
Please like and subscribe.
See, this is why you're on the channel. You know this stuff. I am right now trying to navigate around to find out where my news articles are so we can actually start this show. This is what happens when your technology falls apart 10 minutes before you go live. All right, I think I got it. I got it. All right. Here we go. Are you on the banners today? You're on the banners.
Yeah, whoever's closer today.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you worry about that. I'm going to stay away from it. So we have number one story is some progress happening in downtown Duluth. Now, we talked about last time or 2 times ago about this new center showing up that's coming into the city that's going to be housing and some directed working spaces for people. And that's going to be near City Hall. So that's good. We're talking about the Cozy coming down pretty soon. Do you remember the Cozy, Dave?
Oh, yeah, because they're talking about that at the city council on Monday, next Monday.
Yeah, so I'm old enough to remember driving downtown and seeing people who lived at the Cozy sitting on top of the bar in lawn chairs hanging out during the night. So they're talking about taking that building down, it's somewhat unfortunate in that it's somewhat of a nice building, or it was at one point, but at this point I think it's probably not salvageable. I think it's one of those buildings that just has to go.
Yeah, and even though it's a registered historic landmark, therefore, if anyone but the city owned it, they would have to abide by the rules and keep it historic. But the city can do whatever they want, you know.
It's one of the
Rules for
benefits
you,
of being
not
the
for them.
king.
Yeah.
That's right. All right,
So
so
they're-
we've got one. Oh, go ahead.
No, they're going to tear it down because next Monday they're going to approve another $1.5 million to tear it down. Plus this another $1.5 million for tearing down the building the parking ramp that used to be there.
This is what I was going to bring up because I have a picture to show you. And I'm only going to show you this because I find it quite amusing. Now, I have to say, Roger Reinhardt is doing a good job from what I can tell. And right now I am frozen up. So let's see if this comes back. Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah, I can hear you. The interesting part is that Roger Reinhardt and the mayor from St. Paul both have the same idea of turning the downtown into a residential area.
Yeah.
So, both of them why are they trying to, that's not how downtowns were supposed to go, but.
Right. It's an interesting thing why are they trying to push it? So I imagine it's because there's so much infrastructure downtown, and with businesses leaving, they got to do something with it. It's a good place for people, but I saw this picture. God love him, he's trying, but dude, he is not putting any weight into this hammer. It reminds me of a guy that I used to work with that we used to have casual Fridays. And so casual Fridays meant you could wear jeans and t-shirt because we used to wear actual business clothes during the week. And he would show up on Friday in jeans that looked like they were freshly pressed and from the dry cleaner. That's what this reminds me of. This reminds me of a guy who has never really done anything physical much in his life. And I think it's great that this guy here is watching it going, yeah, that's right. Good job. Get out of my way so I could actually do this.
Yeah, and you can tell he's never swung a sledgehammer in his life.
Oh, I know. And it's just it. You can imagine how much power is in that hit that he just did there.
Yeah.
And he's hitting the graffiti. Is that symbolic?
I suppose that's the only place they had that would actually fall apart.
They probably had the pre-hole in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that aside, it's good that that parking ramp is coming down. It's a blight. It needs something needs to happen with it. Either fix it up or get rid of it. And I think it's past the fix it up kind of phase. There is one more parking lot downtown that's off of Michigan Street that I think is condemned. That needs to go too. That's prime place to put. I don't know if it's parking is a good idea at that place. I think parking where it is right now, that one they're taking down, that is a good place for parking because it's above Superior Street and it's a good location.
Yeah.
The one on Michigan Street, nobody wants to go down there. And unless you're really going to plan on cleaning that place up, and I mean you're going to have to do a lot of work. I just don't see I don't see anything other than putting something there besides parking. But I think the one that they're taking down was a good spot for parking.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up parking there all the time. I don't remember why I parked there, but I remember parking there.
Yeah.
Why did I park there? I don't remember. That's just old age.
The interesting thing that's going to happen with them, and we might as well talk about doing some downtown stuff again. If they're going to put housing downtown, they got a lot of stuff they have to do. And I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying that there's a lot that has to happen. First of all, we've talked about this before. The crime has to come down. They have to get rid of the homeless that are down there. And they also need to get a grocery store or something down there that people can go to that's fairly close. And I don't know how you do that because it's not the city's job to build a grocery store. I don't want a government-run grocery store. I think we saw those enough in the Soviet Union to know what they're like. Yeah. But I think it's ambitious. I don't know that it's worth the cost they're trying to put into it. They have this big study going on how to revitalize downtown. They keep talking about converting office buildings. That alone has its own set of problems. If you're thinking about it, my office, you just went to the bathroom on my floor. You couldn't go on my floor because there's only a woman's room here. Men's room's up on the other building. And that's common. So you're talking about a lot of plumbing. And then when you're talking about a lot more plumbing, a lot more people doing things like taking showers, you've got other problems with where's it go? Can it handle it? What's going to happen when it overflows, Yeah, so it's ambitious.
Really it's not really set up to handle residential.
Right.
For water supply.
Right. And heating. I mean, well, I don't know. Heating, I guess they'll get away with heating. I mean, they can heat these buildings now. They can heat them when there's people in them. But again, good job. We're getting some progress down here. I got another story here for Duluth. We talked about this a little bit. It is the homelessness. So they're closing down this chum thing downtown, but they don't have a place to put it. So they don't have a clear destination yet for the homeless in Duluth. Let me just say this, and let me see what you think about this. The amount of energy and time and concentration that people in the city and the state and the leadership spend on homeless is astounding to me. It is like this is their only thing that they're really concerned about. They don't care about the people who pay taxes, who don't commit crimes. And I'm not saying homeless people are committing crimes, but I'm saying all this energy, all this time spent on homelessness. When do we start getting some attention on other people besides the homeless? Now, I'll tell you what, Duluth is like the worst place for a homeless person to be, regardless of whatever kind of safety net they set up for them. This is not the environment you want to be homeless in. You've got 3 months, 4 months tops. So and I see this in the state, in the representatives too, especially Alicia. The actual focus on this, it reminds me of the Democrats' focus on this gangbanger from that they sent over to El Salvador, and the amount of energy and time these politicians are spending over there trying to massage this. It reminds me of George Floyd, actually, the way they're going about it. But
Right.
it's like they're focused on just about anybody other than us, the citizens, and especially the ones that are law-abiding and pay taxes. They just use us to get their whatever it is out of their system about this, and homelessness is one of them. Now, this, like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, this is not a bad location for it if you're looking at it very location-wise. If you're looking at it purely in a logical viewpoint, yes, okay, this location, if you look at it, there's a lot of area around it, but there's downsides too. There's families that live there.
Right.
Now, if you go onto the News Tribune site, you know what the comments are saying, right? You can take a guess at what some of the comments are. It's,
Well, I can
if
only
you're
imagine.
opposed to this,
Yeah.
if you're opposed to this, you're not a Christian.
Yeah, you're not a.
You're not a Christian. Must not be a Christian. So it's again gatekeeping on religion and trying to shame Christians into doing what other people won't do. And I'm quite sick of it.
It's basically a huge guilt trip.
Yes.
But I mean, if you look back, I mean, we've been talking about homelessness every day since I've been alive.
Yeah.
So the government has been working on this for 60 plus years, homelessness, and we're still no better off than we were 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
How many billions of dollars or millions of dollars has the city put into providing, and we're still exactly at the same point.
Right.
So, are they gonna? Obviously, nothing they're doing is working. So, find an actual solution and do it.
There is no solution. That's the thing they can't wrap their head around. You can't fix this problem. You can mitigate part of it, but you can't fix it. There's some people who just absolutely do not want to be helped by you, and they want to be homeless. Some people are mentally challenged and they don't understand it. Some people are on drugs and they don't want to go into it because, well, they don't want to have to give up their drugs. And the appeasement part of that is, well, we're just not going to check them. So I'm not interested in funding something that just says, okay, do whatever you want. Don't have to get a job. Just do your drugs. We'll provide them probably. And, we'll take care of you. I'm not interested in that. I've got other people I need to take care of, and they're higher list than you are if you're homeless. And like I said, there are some people, and I know of a guy personally, he doesn't want help. He doesn't want to live in a house. He wants to be free and live on the streets. I couldn't live like that, but that's what he wants. And if that's what he wants, as long as he's not hurting anybody,
right?
But again, I will tell you this, and this is not uncommon, and it's not something I'm proud about, but I don't want him in my neighborhood, even if he's not doing anything. I don't want the guy living there. But you can't solve this problem. As soon as you maybe wrap your head around that, you'll understand maybe there's some things we can do and some things we just can't.
Yeah, I mean, you take the old steel mill out in way west Duluth, way out in Gary. You have gigantic fields that nobody's living around.
Mm-hmm.
Let them set up a tent there.
Right.
Let them park their car there. Something.
Or the people that are proposing this, maybe they could open their house for them.
Correct.
I mean, I honestly, after this last election, I saw how much was it? 16,000 people voted in my district for the Democrat. Why do we have any homelessness in my district? She is adamantly for housing everybody. So why aren't every one of those Democrats that voted for Alicia housing somebody in their house? And if they are, good for them. If they're not, there aren't 16,000 homeless in Duluth. Where are you? Stand up, step up.
Yeah, how come you're not a good Christian?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's a whole nother show.
That's you got to put on little hats for that or something. I don't know.
Right.
So that's interesting, and so there's going to be something going on about that because the people that have to live around there are like, whoa, wait a second. I live 600 feet from this place. I got kids. And, if you're going to put up a fence, maybe, but let's talk about what you're going to do. And it's not permanent, but it's not like a month. It's 3 years, I think, that they want to do this. And after 3 years, Don't tell me it's not going to be permanent. More than likely it will be.
It'll be, yeah, because it's been established and
Once you get it, that's it.
yeah.
All right. We've got one here that you've added that says Duluth pay for paper mill cleanup. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, on Monday they're going to talk about the new Sofidel paper mill expansion, and they're going to drop $2.5 million, just shy of it, to clean up where the old paper mill was, so that Sofidel can have their expansion. Well, which is fine, other than the previous owner should have cleaned it up, because my parents were sued by the EPA, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, for a mess they didn't make. So they had to pay for cleaning up a mess they didn't make. Yet the city's going to pay for expansion of the Sofidel plant.
Wait,
and I understand.
So the city of Duluth is paying that money?
Yes.
We're paying that money?
Yeah, they're getting, some of it's getting paid by the state, the state MPCA, but it's going to be partially paid for by Duluth citizens, so that we can have the expansion, which will create jobs, obviously, and more tax revenue. But still, we as a city are paying for it.
Okay.
Which doesn't
make sense to me at all. Yeah.
It doesn't seem fair. So they're going to be talking about that on Monday's city council meeting.
So what are we getting out of that? So I guess the question is there a bang for the buck on that? If it's the way to get them to expand, if they wouldn't done it otherwise, then I can see making an argument for it, but you better explain to me how we're going to make that money back in a reasonable amount of time. Like I'm talking 3 years to 5 years tops. If you don't have a plan like that, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it'll get paid back over 100 years, because they're going to hire like 100 new employees at above minimum wage, but they believe it get it back in taxes and the people spending money at restaurants, grocery stores.
Tax revenue based on all that. That's all tax revenue, right?
Correct. So that's what they're thinking.
I'd be interested to see the mathematics behind that. I'm not opposed to it if they can prove that that's going to be worth the money. I mean, It's good to have business here. It's good to have people working. I definitely believe that. But if we're spending $2.5 million to get back a 500,000 over 10 years, that doesn't seem worth it to me.
No, and that's why I think this next story is kind of in line with that. Is the Duluth City Council will talk about the bike path set up between Duluth and Superior, which was originally approved in 2019. So we're already 6 years into a project, but now they've revamped the whole project, and there is no money coming in for this project. They're not. They're just going to pay for it.
This is between Duluth and Superior?
Yes. So it's mostly Duluth roads, but we're going to connect to Superior somehow, and then put bike paths in Superior. And the best line that I seen out of it, the story was the fiscal impact. Adopting a plan prepared by the Duluth Superior Metropolitan Interstate Council saves the city time and money, because we don't have to create a unique plan for the city.
What?
Exactly.
What does that mean?
Well, they've already created a plan, so they're saving money by not having to research it. So you're just going to accept this plan. Therefore, we're not going to research it. And by the way, you have to pay for it. We're not going to pay for it. But basically, you're taking driving space away from Duluth roads, so they can put up like those little rubber cones in the road so bikes can move around safely. So they don't want to put any money into a project. So somehow it's going to get over to Superior too. I have a feeling it's on the Bong Bridge or the new
Yeah.
Blinding.
You have one of two ways to get over to Superior, to be honest.
Right. So you got two bridges.
And one's going to be demolished soon. So it's
right.
Hopefully it'll be, if it's going to be anything, I hope they build it into that bridge. Then we don't have to worry about it, right? They expand it out wide enough so that I don't have any problem with having a bike path across a bridge as long as it's not with traffic and not with pedestrians.
Well, see, if you start, I didn't get through the whole thing because it was 40 pages long. But they're talking about, removing parking for cars, removing lanes for cars, putting bikes to share the same lane for cars. So we're going to put all this money and time and effort into a bike path system for 3 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year?
Right.
And because otherwise it's going to be rainy or snowy. And let's quit calling them biking paths when no one's going to bike up Masabi or Lake Avenue.
Right. Yeah. Well, but one thing too is, where's the money coming from this? Cars on the road pay taxes, a lot of taxes for registration and for gas. The bikes, they get registered. There's a registration tax for bikes, right? Not even in.
I haven't registered a bike since I was 5 years old.
So, where's the money for this? Maybe it's time to start taxing these bikes. If you have a fetish for having bikes on the road all the time, it's time for them to start paying their share of that road. And so a few $100s a year for a bike plus mileage.
Yeah. Why not? I seen a story or opinion piece in the Star Tribune about someone suggesting that because the people who are not paying the user tax like everybody else is using are the bicyclists, right, the hikers, the bird watchers. You're going through these state parks and hiking and all that stuff's for free. At what point are Walls is trying to tax everybody else? Why aren't these people being taxed a user fee?
Right. Yeah. If it means grooming a trail, then it means there's money involved with it. And I absolutely hate the thought of having to pay for everything we absolutely have to do. So I understand some common stuff that's very open, but as soon as you start taking away road space, I don't care if a bike's on the road, but as soon as you start narrowing the lanes so it's ultra dangerous for the cars, it backs up traffic, and you have to have these special areas with these special cones or special pavement, then it costs us a lot of money. I mean, it's time to start charging them for that.
Right. I mean, if we'll get to the governor eventually, but if the governor's going to raise taxes, there's a place you can start.
Right. I agree.
Everyone needs to pay their fair share.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and the bikers, you know what? It would also be nice if the cops would be able to pull over bikers for the way that they ride on the road. So it's notorious that bikers do not follow the rules of the road. And I just saw it just the other day. I'm coming up to a stop. I start going, a biker shoots through it, not stopping, doesn't care, doesn't even turn their head. I don't know how they live so long doing stuff like that. So, all right. Well, anything else?
No, that's all the Duluth City Council was talking about on Monday was basically approving road construction.
Money.
Yeah, spending lots of millions of dollars.
There you go. Yeah, we got plenty.
Yeah, so
we're flush with cash.
Show up with your hand out.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Minnesota bills. I wanted to bring up this one. It's pretty slow with our Duluth representatives, and those are the ones I like to highlight. But Alicia Kozlowski has introduced a new bill. She's the chief author. HF 3192, property tax exemption established for certain property owned by an Indian tribe. So again, we've got our race-based legislation where Alicia is looking out for her race and she's trying to get them to not pay money for things. It's very interesting because this is a very specific bill. It only has to do with first-class cities that have over 400,000 residents. I believe Minneapolis is the only one that qualifies for what this bill is. And it's for a very distinct set of property and very distinct size. If it doesn't have anything to do with Duluth and it only has something to do with Minneapolis, why is she authoring this bill?
Right.
Who does she represent? Who, at some point, are people going to wake up and notice that she does not represent them at all? And unless you're Hispanic, Native American, or gay, she doesn't really care about what you have to say, what you want. Unless you want to go against, federal government stuff, then she'll listen to you. But
yeah,
to be honest, all of her bills are race-based, or almost all of her bills are race-based, except for some softball ones that she does just, well, I'm probably going to have to do this one. It'll probably look good. It's ridiculous. And it's just another one. At the end of the session, I'm going to tally up all the bills that she's chief authored and all the ones that have to do with racial components. And I'll bet you it's more than a quarter of them.
Right.
I never see the one that say, this is only for Finnish Americans. Why is that? I saw the ones that just for Hispanic Americans. I've seen the ones just for natives. I don't see anybody for Finnish. I don't see anybody for just Dutch or Asian or Black. It's just what she is.
I mean, if you look at the district out there, it's mostly Scandinavian, Norwegian.
Oh, yeah.
How come she's not doing Scandinavian-based, race-based bills?
I mean, if you looked at her bills or just looked at what she talks about, you wouldn't have a clue where she's from, who she represents. Yeah. I don't even know if she knows, and I can't say this to be fair because I don't know, but she doesn't seem to have any idea what's going on in the district at all, what's important to people. And that's evident by one of those bills that's trying to strip away zoning rights again, away from cities again, just like she did last time.
Right.
But it's what's for low-income housing and for homeless people, because that's the people that bring in no revenue to the city and just cost us money and make our standard of living go down. Right. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And we have another one here. It says new bills across Walt's desk. 6,600. Are you serious? There's been 6,600 bills introduced?
Yeah. So, when we touch on what the Duluth News Tribune endorsed candidates of Duluth are,
yeah,
we're barely touching the surface of them.
Yeah.
2 years ago there was 3,200 and Governor Walz signed like 32 or something like that. I can't remember. But right now, of the 6,600 introduced, 6 of them have been approved by the state and the House, or the Senate and the House, 4 of which have been signed and 2 are awaiting signatures.
Oh, God. Why?
So,
well, he's busy. He's got a lot to do. He's got to be in other cities and other states to talk about how he's against Trump, the important stuff for the state.
Yeah, I mean, for him to even spend the time to do a State of the State address where he actually has to come into the state and talk about it is probably pretty oppressive to him.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So it shows, if you think there's going to be a bonding bill this year, when, 4 out of 6,600 bills introduced, it's going to cost us $1 million to go into special session. So,
of course. And that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Now we got to roll up our sleeves now and really get to work, because we haven't been just introducing superfluous bills throughout this entire session, so that we can have a Hispanic center set up for engagement of leadership. I think that was one of her bills. Yeah. With millions of dollars attached to it too.
But one of the bills he signed was about animal husbandry. So, real important things that we have to deal with.
I'm not even going to go into his college arrest and just disgusting.
Right.
But I want to segue to a new section, which is called Sean's Bills. I even created a banner for it. You can find it. Hey, there it is. So we talked about this last week, but I added one to it. So I'm going to go recap what it was, and then I'm going to talk about the new one. So I had the top 5 was number 1, punish businesses who employ illegal aliens. That was one of my first bills. Second one was trying to get an AI center in Duluth, or exploring it at least, and trying to take advantage of some of the stuff that the president of the United States has been saying is important to him. Maybe we can take advantage of it, which I would love it if some of our state reps would start focusing on that instead of trying to figure out how to stop everything he's doing. Getting some manufacturing incentives, work with the city of Duluth, the city councilors, and the mayor to find out what we can do to help manufacturing come to the city or the area, and maybe we can facilitate something. I had another one that says no dual citizens can hold public office or can be a judge. I think that one's important because we can't have people with dual citizenships running the country or making decisions for us. We don't know where their loyalty lies. Number 5 was to stop any geoengineering that may be happening. This is spraying things into the air. We're going to talk about this a little later with what they're trying to do in England soon. So to stop any kind of geoengineering. And no, number 6, you're going to like this one, Dave, but it's not mind-blowing. I need a stand your ground law. We need to get away from this retreat from everything law that the Democrats have put in place. And I will specifically point out the Democrats put this in place so that you must try to run away instead of defending yourself. Turn your back on somebody who may be trying to do you bodily harm, or you could go to jail. I think we need a stand your ground law. We need a castle doctrine, and we need to get rid of that kind of nonsense so that people don't feel afraid to defend themselves because they may face worse prosecution by the state than they do from the person attacking them. And it's a gamble, right? Would you ever turn your back on somebody coming after you? No. No. I'm not turning my back and letting them hit me in the back of the head. So that's my number 6. What do you think?
I think that's perfect. I don't know if that story was in our list of things for later, but about the guy sent to jail for shooting the bear that was in his house.
Oh yeah.
You know,
and the bear was coming after his kids, so he was trying to protect his kids, from what I understand.
Yeah, so he was using the gun to scare away the bear, and he somehow accidentally shot it and killed it, and he's going to jail for it because the same thing is he wasn't able to protect his family, his kids. You know, no stand your ground wherever he was. I have to track that story down and find out, what screwed up state that is, so I don't ever go there.
It's interesting to know that the pecking order of this country seems to be us at the very bottom. There's a lot of people above us, criminals, illegal aliens, people who are homeless. Sooner or later, you track down to the end, and it's us, the ones that pay for it all, right?
Right. And the Democrats wonder why their approval rating has just reached a new low at 24%. Approval.
It's
still dropping.
The shock to me is it's that high, to be quite honest with you.
Very true.
All right. We're going to move on to Minnesota news. I don't know if this is a real thing, but we're going to present it. And I want to have people see what's happening. And this has to do with Ilhan Omar, our vaunted national rep. So she's not a Minnesota rep. Let me just get this going here, and then I'll share it. So let's present this. And here I won't play the whole thing, but.
Omar on the U.S. House Committee on Foreign Affairs. I'm also asking Congresswoman Craig to initiate an ethics investigation into Congresswoman Omar because of questions about federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal student loan fraud, and state violations of perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and acts of campaign fraud abuse in Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida.
Yikes. That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, they're really, there's quite a long list of things that she's done wrong, or they're accusing her of doing wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. And what we talked about before is you're innocent until proven guilty. This could just be, I don't know this guy, so this could be somebody attacking her, but I've heard wisps about this her entire career, especially about her immigration and how she's in the government is beyond me. You know, having
Right.
moved here and she was already like 14 years old when she moved here. Having a place of responsibility where she's helping make laws, it's crazy to me, just crazy to me.
Which goes back to your bills, because we
Yes.
don't know where her loyalty stands either. So she would no longer be eligible to, unless she gave up her Somali immigration status, or her loyalty to her homeland, basically. So we know she's loyal to his.
Right.
But the guy who was presenting it was a representative of somewhere. I don't remember it off the top of my head anymore. But so he was.
Yeah. Well, I know she's loyal to Somalia because she calls it our president when she talked about the Somali president, and she has meetings with them on how to skirt the federal government. I know that. I've seen it. So, again, don't take my word for it, though. Go investigate it yourself. I get stuck in a lawsuit myself.
Yeah, it would be nice to find out how that one turns out to see.
Yeah.
Well, but we'll follow it and make sure if she's actually guilty that she's not in Hennepin County. So.
Yeah, right. If she does go to jail, I will trickle a little tear down my eye about getting rid of her.
Yeah.
When you think about it, it's like, what's the person in politics in Minnesota you get rid of if you had the chance? And it really is a tough decision. You got Amy Klobuchar, you got her, you got Keith Ellison, you got Tim Walz. I mean, my God. I mean, which one do you pick? That would be a Sophie's choice if I ever had one.
Right, definitely.
And speaking of, now you're going to like this transition if I can actually get this thing to start sharing, which doesn't seem to want to. Keith Ellison hides his ties to the Somali Muslim charity fraud. So this is heating up a little bit. Keith is, he's an interesting cat. I'll tell you that right now. But he was caught talking to these guys, apparently. And this is the one that stole $250 million in COVID relief and overseen by the Department of Education again of Minnesota. And he seems to have been cozy with him a little bit. And after some meetings with him, apparently he got some kickbacks on campaign donations. So again, if he gets kicked out of office, if he gets perp walked into jail, I will trickle a little tear down my face for that too, if he's guilty of these charges. Again, innocent until proven guilty.
And if he received this money from the fraud, the two people that were thrown in jail for proven fraud, now they've been found guilty of fraud, did he return this money to the state?
Good question.
Because that wasn't from them personally. That was from feeding our families.
Right.
That whole thing. So why are they donating to politicians? And two, that's, if they shouldn't be using it to feed kids, not pay for.
Right.
So.
And well, it is a compelling question to ask is, why were they donating to this candidate? Why were they donating to these people? What are they getting out of it?
Right. Yeah, and that's the main question is, what are they getting in return?
Right. All right. Now we're going to move on to a Supreme Court case. And let me see if I could share this. Being real finicky about sharing screens today. Supreme Court rejects Minnesota's effort to revive ban on young adults from carrying guns. So the same group that wants to give 16-year-olds the right to vote wants to ban them from owning guns until they're 21. So I don't understand where their line is drawn for what they think is an adult and what they don't. But they've come up with this again. It's been shot down again, and I can guarantee they'll try something like this again, because this is just a perpetual loop of doing this until they get something, They just keep building on it and building on it. It doesn't matter if it's unconstitutional to just rewrite it and send it in again.
Yeah, it's getting kind of tiring. This constant, like you said, what age is the appropriate age?
Right.
And they want to do, they want gender transforming surgery is at 5 years old without telling.
That's true. Right.
So if you can, why doesn't a 5-year-old be able to buy a gun?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Come
the
up with an
Democrat logic
idea.
behind this stuff is just
It's all over the
hypocritical,
place.
and it's all over the place. Yeah.
It's amazing that the conservatives can be pretty consistent about it, right? They're like, 18, you're an adult. If you want to chop off your willy and call yourself Sally when you're 18, that's your right. You pay for it, right?
Yep.
If I don't want to pay for it, but at the same time, I don't really care if it's what you want to do. I made money. So an 18, used to be the drinking age, and 18 used to be when you could smoke, and they keep trickling those up to 21, but then they want to get, voting down to 16. So what is it? They want to be able to, I want to be able to determine what sex I am when I'm 5 or 10. It just doesn't, it's just inconsistent all the time. It's just based on what their feeling is for it.
Yeah, and you can stay on your parents' health care until 26.
Right.
So is that the age? I don't know.
Right. All right. Let's see. Oh, so we had this guy talk about this guy that keyed a bunch of Tesla's vehicles, caused $20,000 in damage that they know of. And so he gets caught because there's cameras in Teslas. Now, the reason he's going after Tesla, why would he go after Teslas? Why would he key them? Because he's a liberal. Now, I'm doing conjecture here. My guess is there's a whole effort right now headed up by Tim Walz to say, hey, Teslas are bad. And so people have been keying them. They've been destroying them. They've been firebombing them. So he gets caught, and he works for the government, one of Tim Walz's employees. And he's not going to face any charges. In fact, vandalism, charging Tim Walz official for Tesla vandalism would risk public safety.
Charging him?
This
risk?
Mary Moriarty. So what they're doing is a thing called diversion. So what she's saying is, and I think I have actually a video of this. So let me see if I can find that. What she's saying, this is diversion. So he doesn't go to jail. He doesn't get charged. But if he does it again, he could get charged. So it's not off the table. But then the reasoning is that he can now work, and then he can pay back his bills, because if he goes to jail, then he can't pay his bills. And on the surface, I can understand that a little bit. I understand. Let's see. I'll get this video of him in action, by the way. I understand the point of what she's trying to say, which is, if you're in jail, you can't pay it back and you can't make restitution. But couldn't you say that about just about anything then? Isn't that any kind of law you break? Well, if I go to jail, I can't pay it back.
Right.
So what am I going to do? So here's some video of the guy doing his job.
So he walks across the street.
Yep.
So it wasn't accidental or
Nope.
a chance of scratching. It was
Nope.
intentional.
Right. And the problem I have with this is, you can make the argument about diversion and that it's a good thing because he's going to be working. This is political terrorism. This is Elon Musk has been working with a Republican. He doesn't like Republicans. And Tim Walz is all over saying, oh, good, the stock market's going down. You guys can't take a joke. It's bad. Tesla's bad. But you're encouraging it. And then by not charging him, you're just emboldening other people to do the same thing. And maybe they won't get caught because they're figuring out how not to get caught on this too. If this is political terrorism, it should be treated as such. And then you need to make an example out of somebody to put a little fear of God in these people, because I don't think most of the people who are doing the keyings, I don't think those are normally people that break the law. I think they get angry, they get it in their brain, and they're very emotional people because that's what the Democrat Party is, and they can't control themselves, and then they scratch it. But if they know there's a consequence, funny enough, they're able to control themselves, and they don't do it as soon as they learn there's a consequence. So I think it's a really bad message to just say, oh no, we can't charge this. This is bad. We can't charge them. This is, we do this for everything. This is a very specific case. And the funny thing is, remember back when they used to have the BLM things or the gay rights flags on the streets?
Yeah.
And somebody would tear across them with their car or something. They would charge those people. They would fine them and they would arrest them and they would make them pay restitution. They would go to jail. Right. And that was for that because they were saying, no, this is symbolic. This is a political gesture. So why is this any different? I don't understand it. Well, I do understand it. That's the problem.
Right. And a couple things. This Mary Moriarty did the same thing with two 17-year-olds who murdered this beautiful young lady. And they basically went into a diversion program, promised to pinky swear never do it again. And they got 2 years for murder, first-degree murder. And they got less than 2 years.
2 years.
So they got 2 years. So
wow.
So they'll be out in 2 years. So, that's basically promoting killing, she's promoting domestic warfare basically, and domestic murdering. Because,
right.
If they know that you're only going to get 2 years for it, then, why, that's not that big of a deal. People can spare 2 years to to get rid of their enemy.
Well, yeah. Right. And it is, like you said, this is just making sure that people are fully aware that, yep, you're going to do it. You're going to get away with it. The worst case is you get caught, but we'll take care of you if you get caught. So if you want to see what Mary Moriarty looks like.
And she's made the national news because of her lack of stance on the law. She just let people get away with basically everything. So
only
really curious,
only a certain group gets away with everything. Others get really hard time.
Right. And we're going to find that out because Senator Eichhorn, who was caught in the sting for trying to have a prostitute visit with a 17-year-old that turned out to be a sting.
Yep.
He's under her district. So Is he going to get, is he going to get a slap on the wrist, or is he going to get charged double because he's a Republican?
Yeah, I think we know the answer to that, but I'll be curious to find out. Yeah. She is notorious for not doing that. In fact, to the point where the police, I don't know if you saw this, the chief of police in Minneapolis, like, look, quit blaming us. We did our job. We took him, we found him, we arrested him, we sent him for prosecution. that's the last thing we can do. We're off the hook at that point. That's not our job to prosecute. That's their decision. And they're frustrated by the amount of prosecutions that they don't pursue there.
Right.
And the more they do that, the more emboldened they get.
Right. He's 100% right that the date, and within 24 hours, they had this guy arrested. They did their job. They did a great job. They found out who it was, arrested him, booked him. And now for what reason? So now she's just making the cops, the morale drop because they did their job and then nothing's going to happen to them.
Right. Which is, that kind of brings me back to when I was talking to a cop and, they see somebody do something like they don't have a license or something. You're driving without a license. They actually caught this guy without a license. But you know what? It's punishment through the system. So what they have to do if that case happens, they have to take that person, drive them all the way up to almost Hermantown, bring the guy in, they sign something, and then they have to bring the guy all the way back to his car when they picked him up. So they're a shuttle service. Yeah. And then they'll just let him go. They won't do anything. They'll just not prosecute him. So at some point the cops start going, well, why should I even bother? There's no point in it. So then they just ignore it. So then that person is getting away with that. They just move on to the next thing. It just builds and builds and builds. And that's what they're producing.
Well, yeah. I mean, the carjacking crime went up 863% in the Twin Cities.
Mm-hmm.
And even the kids' parents say that the kids will steal two vehicles in one day because they'll get home from the first theft because nothing's going to happen to them, and then they'll go out and steal again.
Right. And people here think that that's, we're just making that up. I know people personally. There's one guy that was in his yard, in his driveway, fixing his car, and somebody stole his car from him. In his driveway, in his garage, working on his car. And that's his Edina. This used to be the rich place, where people want to be safe and it was a very nice area. It's gone now.
Yeah, I mean, this lady should be removed from office, and Walz can do it, but Walz agrees with domestic terrorism. Right. Therefore, nothing's ever going to happen.
And Walz was very worried about one thing recently, and so he took action on it.
Oh.
He wanted to make sure the El Salvadorian prison had access to menstrual products.
Yeah.
I saw that. Cracked me right up when I saw that. It's like, I got to put that in. Yeah, it's crap, but yeah, I got to do it anyway. So let's move on to the Waltz section. And this will be pretty small, but the state of state address was yesterday, and he could have spent a good, 20 minutes railing on Trump, and the state of the state, or was it state of the nation? Because last time I heard, he was a podunk governor of a state in the middle of the country. He's not a national guy. He may think he is because he went on with Kamala Harris and, was a vice presidential candidate, but he didn't get elected. So it's not his job. So it says here that during his opening remarks, Waltz painted a positive portrait of his tenure as governor, where he reflected that over the last 6 years, Minnesotans have been writing a story about what it means to govern like good neighbors with decency and common sense, but also with courage and ambition. What a load of garbage this guy is. He's been a disaster. Look at our educational numbers. Yeah. Look at the budget that got butchered in the last 2 years, and he signed off on it. Look at all the corruption that's been happening under his watch, and nothing's being done about it. Only now, when he's starting to look like he might not have a trifecta, does he start to get nervous about it and want to do things. Right. And, Waltz calls for, this is the Duluth News Tribune. Waltz calls for unity in state of the state address. They always want unity once they start losing control and losing power. But when 2 years ago, the last couple of years when they had full control, boy, it was, pedal to the metal, do what we want. We're going to ram this stuff through and you don't get a thing. And now Oh, stop. We got to be nice to each other. We got to be good.
That's their
And
definition of unity is
yeah,
you agree with us.
right. Security, opportunity, freedom. I hear it everywhere I go. And every time I do, I find myself feeling proud of Minnesota. Oh, what a bunch of garbage.
Well, yeah, that was my favorite one because he was talking about the three words security. Well, we don't have security anymore because you have Mary Moriarty letting murderers go and domestic terrorists. You let him, let those people go. Opportunity. Well, we don't have any opportunity anymore because name one thing you can do without state permission. Even Elise
Right.
Kozlowski, she wants to, all the building codes go into the city. Everything is there's mandates and there's regulations on everything, and it got worse over the last 2 years when they had the trivectum. Freedom,
Right.
well, none of that because Governor Walz started a listening program to monitor everybody's social media so that they can see who's, they're keeping track of what you say. So they're not going to do anything about it, but, until they do. So they're monitoring everything you do. So you're locked.
Well, remember too.
Go ahead.
Remember too that Waltz was the one that set up a hotline so that you could report your neighbors if they actually went and had neighbors come over, or had somebody come over, so they make sure that you can report on him. And there he has the nerve, and his daughter has the nerve to call the current administration Nazis. That's about as Nazi as you can possibly get.
Right. So everything he said was a campaign speech for his whatever he's going to run for next.
Right. Oh, I think he thinks he's going to be president. I think he thinks he's going to be president. And you know what? I would just laugh at that, but too many weird things have happened in the past that I don't want to jinx it. I don't want him to be near the presidency. I don't even want to be near the governorship. In fact, I don't even know what job I think he could do. I mean, maybe fixing potholes.
Well, he can fix a truck, so the world needs more mechanics.
It's true. I forgot about that. And now I'm, really upset about his masculinity. I'm a little frightened and I'm a little upset.
Exactly.
But here's his daughter. She compared the suspected M16 thing, MS-13 gang member to Jesus. She also compared Trump to Hitler. His daughter reminds me of an old saying, which is, the nuts don't fall too far from the tree.
Right.
But she gets press. That's the worst thing. I mean, you've got this, I don't know if it's a blithering idiot. I'm trying to think of a better term, but, she has an opinion and people pick up on it. And that's sad.
Yeah. It's amazing how the governor can lie to us for half hour in a speech, but if we lie to the government, we go to jail.
Yes. Yeah. It's 3-tier justice. It's 3 or 4-tier justice at this point.
We're going to have to sit down and write that out to figure out exactly how many tiers there are.
Yeah. Well, I know this much. We're pretty much on the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's move on to national news. We're going to kind of fly through some of these, but I wanted to point out, we talked about this guy last week. This soy boy decided to beat up on a kid because he was wearing a Trump hat. And he's been relieved of all teaching responsibilities now. I want to point out this little thing down here. Look at this. His lapel pin is the Soviet Union stuff. So we got a communist in this country teaching kids and beating up kids he doesn't like. Top notch. Good job, Washington
like a chemistry teacher too, something that had nothing to do with politics.
No, yeah, it was nothing to do with politics. I think it was an engineering or chemistry, something like that.
Yeah, something. So he just because someone wore a Trump hat, that means he's allowed to be violent.
Yeah, right.
So he obviously knows Mary Moriarty.
Well, yeah, if he lived in Minnesota, he'd be getting a medal or something here.
Right.
Let's see. I'll show this video because I find it quite amusing.
Disgusting, sick, vile, fucking weirdo. Oh my God, it's fucking right. You dumb bitch, you're with this shit. He doesn't want me or you to have equality. Oh my God, go pray for me. Touch me and watch me touch the fucking hands. I want to hit and get away. Sit down. Get out. You're not welcome here. You don't want these people here. You're not welcome. You want me to make you be okay. Got to put this one. Who the hell are you? Stand up and hit your man.
I'm proud of this man. This man here's some people I see.
Please call the cops. Thank you, sir. You don't like the fire service? You don't like veterans? Why are you in this restaurant wearing that hat? That doesn't make any damn sense. And then y'all right now, this is crazy shit right here. This is some fucked up shit.
Can't take her anywhere.
I swear. So a guy is wearing a hat. What's wrong with you? I mean, she goes up to these guys because he's wearing a hat. And then she's amazed. She's getting escorted out. She thinks, she honestly thought they were going to take that guy and kick him out of the restaurant. I don't understand it. It's a switch. You see it happen in people. If they see something that have to do with Trump, you'll see their complete demeanor change, their face change. You can't tell me that isn't some sort of trained response.
Right.
It's unbelievable
It's
to
an
me.
arrangement syndrome where, they've been convinced through the media and through our politicians that it's okay to act that way.
Right.
Because there's no consequences for your action.
Mm-hmm.
So I give the police a lot of credit on that one, that they didn't just grab her and toss her out.
Right.
They were very polite to her, which she wasn't giving anybody else that same politeness.
Right. Yeah, I want to bring this up because if anybody's watching this and that they get like that, please recognize that. Understand that that's not right. And there's something wrong there where you get so mad so fast and feel like it's your responsibility to go talk to somebody because they dared wear a hat you don't like. If you don't understand it, please start thinking about that at least. You've got to understand that that's not right. And you've probably been programmed by somebody to be like that. So understand that. But we'll move on from that. I just thought that was crazy. So on a lighter note.
But it's close to the same. It's not a lighter note, but it's close to the same where someone has convinced this guy of something. So he needs to perpetuate it, basically.
Yep. So let me get this on here. And people have probably seen this, but if you haven't, open your eyes, see what's happening here. So I'm just going to play what this guy has to say. I guess this guy is a rapper.
Hey, to all of the people who are against Carmelo Anthony, me as a black man in America, white people, I'm telling you and I'm telling you now, you ever even think to approach me, bully me, harass me, think you're going to be with your twin brother or twin whatever, and do anything to me, I too will poke you as well. Straight to the heart. And that's on self-defense. This is not the Jim Crow era. This ain't 400 years ago. This ain't 1619. This ain't back in them days. Y'all don't want to end up like Austin. Leave black people alone. Y'all didn't play fair for 400 years. We ain't playing fair with y'all either. Hey, to all of.
So this guy's username has the word 1989 on it. So I'm guessing that's how old he is. That's the year he was born.
Yeah.
So 36.
Correct.
When have you ever suffered? The guy looks like he's 25 to me, but could be 36. He acts like he's been oppressed his whole life. And it's not a natural response to say, if you're going to harass me, I'm going to stab you in the heart. You better understand that this is where it's at. This is where the people think that now they're supreme to you. As a race, we can kill you and it won't be a problem, because what happens is we just get let out of jail too. This kid, his bond got chased down to $250,000. He literally stabbed somebody to death, somebody who was unarmed, in the heart, and he's out on bail. It's crazy.
Yeah, in a place where you shouldn't have a knife, where a place where he was caught doing something wrong and he got called out on it.
Right.
And somehow he thinks he's in the right. And people have donated $500,000 to his defense fund because for some reason they think he's a hero, and Democrats want to die on that hill, obviously. So
yeah, well, if it's it's unfortunate and it's horrible. And the father of that kid that got stabbed is, I don't understand him at all, to be honest with you. He's all about love and compassion and stuff. I don't know how he can do it. So let's talk about something completely different now. That's not it. Sorry. I'm going to talk about something the Wall Street Apes posted about Toys R Us. And I want you to think about this when a private equity firm comes to buy the company that you may invest in or see happening. What happened to Toys R Us? Well, it's kind of an interesting little article. It says, after Toys R Us signed with the private equity firm, they sold all the land under every store they owned. So now they were leasing the land they previously owned. They sold that land to their sister firms so that they could have it in their real estate trust. And then they leased this. So now they've got their own company buying the land and then leasing it back to Toys R Us. Then they take their warehouses and they take all the back stock and they liquidate that and they sell it for pennies on the dollar to their own companies. And in 2 years, Toys R Us is bankrupt after this happens. And this is the locus approach to private equity firms. They're great in concept if it's all about making money and that's all you want to do in your life. But you've got to really pay attention when these guys come to town, because what they're there to do is to take you, strip you down, sell you off, and then move on to the next place. I say that to make people understand that you have to think about things like this when you're talking about any kind of business deal. You have to know what the intentions. So on paper, private equity firms are pure capitalism, but in reality, they're not capitalism. They're all about just raping a company and leaving it for dead.
correct. I've worked for 2 private equity firms indirectly, and I question their business tactics every single time. And what it really boils down to is they're not interested in long term. They are interested in immediate cash, make money now, and we're not going to care about the long term. And so all their business decisions were made just for immediate cash, nothing else.
Right. They don't care about the people who work there. They don't care about the business longevity. They don't even care about the product. So when I heard that BlackRock was going to try to buy Minnesota Power, I think that's a horrible idea, because they're going to strip it down to nothing. And it is going to be, no private equity firm should own any kind of business that has to do with public service. Dead stop. That's another one of them. I have a new bill. There, I'm going to try to add that. I'll try to remember that for later. But yeah, that private equity firms have their purpose. They're not evil. They're not a moral way to run a company. And if you're trying to run a company for the good of the product and the people that work there and America as a whole, that's not a private equity firm. They're there to make money, like you said. They don't care how they do. Some questionable stuff happens. And in the end, it's never a good thing. I mean, my God, watch Pretty Woman, for cripe's sakes.
Yeah.
Talk about it in there. I want to see. Let's talk about this. I found this very amusing. So you got a 42-year-old Democratic lawyer, this woman, who is suing to be in the Navy SEALs. So keeping in mind that the requirement is you have to be no older than 28, but she wants to file a lawsuit against him just because she wants to be a Navy SEAL. And I honestly think she thinks she can do it. And I'm looking at this woman right now telling you, I will bet you $100 she can't.
Right.
Flat out easy. I don't think she'd make it a day in the training those guys have to do. And I'll be perfectly honest, neither could I.
Right. There's no way I could have. I don't know if I could have ever have done it.
Right. In my prime, in my
Yep.
20s, I certainly couldn't have because I was in bad shape back then, health-wise. But yeah, in my peak, no way. I've seen what those guys have to do. It's torture.
Right.
So I think what they should do is let her try it, but put her into a full training regimen, but not allow her to quit.
Yeah. I mean, with Pete Hegseth as the new head, he said there's going to be one requirement for top jobs. And so she needs to, if she can qualify to do that top job and pass the physical fitness test, then
Right.
then she can. Otherwise, no. Very simple.
Right. Yes. This isn't about inclusivity. This isn't about making people feel good. This is about getting warriors on the ground that can do a job and they can trust each other to do the job.
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry to say it, you're on the wrong side of 40. You're on the wrong side of 30 to get to this job.
Yeah.
But this is the some sort of mental disease making them think they're much stronger and tougher and more capable than they actually are. If I'm looking at this woman and she's ripped top to bottom, and even so, at 42, you're too old. There's a reason that you don't have boxers in their 40s. You don't have NFL players in their 40s. It's just not doable.
Right.
Not they don't have the will, they don't have the body for it.
Yeah.
I
and
thought
even,
that was kind of amusing.
Even the basketball player James, can, he's now called King Flop because every time someone touches him, he's on the ground crying like a 12-year-old girl, and he's 42 or 41 or something like that. So
Right.
he's past his age to handle the stress of the NBA. So
Right. I saw some 12-year-old girls looking at him going, oh my God, I can't believe
yeah,
it.
right. Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Embarrassing, yeah.
Let's talk about, so last week we talked about dire wolves, did we not? People are
Yes,
bringing back dire wolves. And here's another one. UK scientists want to block out the sun to fight climate change. If this doesn't have "good Lord help us" written all over it, I don't know what. And here, I always love these. How blocking out the sunlight could help. Geez, and what happens when you block it out and then all of a sudden all the plants start dying and we start going to global cooling? And you're like, oh my God, I never thought that would happen. These people should be taken out and beaten in the streets and left there and then stop this research. It's time to stop doing this. And just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'll take global warming over global cooling any day of the week, because global cooling, plants don't survive. If you don't have plants, you can't feed the mammals to produce meat. So,
Right.
you cool the planet, you kill everybody off. That's basically what you're doing.
It seems to be the intent, to be quite honest.
Right. I think you're right on that. Definitely. Because even Bill Gates was talking about the same thing. Is the biggest problem we have is overpopulation.
Yeah. Which, you know what? I don't disagree with that. I think doubling our population every couple of years is not good. I mean, there was what, 3 billion people on the planet when we were born, when you and I were born, and there's like 9 billion now. That's unsustainable, but I don't think the idea is to kill everybody.
Right.
I mean, I don't think the United States, to be honest, is the problem or can be the solution to the problem. You know, when you look at our birth rate, we're flat.
Right.
You look at Japan's, it's declining. So it's China, India, and Africa. I think they're the ones that are building all the people up. So unfortunately, we can't do anything about that unless you want to take the brutal approach, which I'm not endorsing, but I'm saying it's not our countries, it's not our problems, it's not something we can fix. You know, so some people can't deal with that fact.
Right.
All right. And let's go here. So Executive Trump to sign orders to block DEI-based school discipline. So what this is there was a DEI theory of using basically making sure that discipline was equalized across the races. This was Obama level thing. And so this is getting rid of it. So instead of punishing behavior, you're punishing race. Well, we can't do this because that race has had too many problems this last week.
Yeah.
I don't care what race you're talking about. But I do have a story about this back in the 90s. I think it was the 90s or early 2000s that down in the cities, there was a thing that's like, hey, we have a disproportionate amount of this race of kids getting expelled. Okay, so if you were to have that happen to your school, what you would do is say, okay, well, first of all, that's interesting. So let's find out if it's true, if they're really, this race is causing the problem, or are they being targeted? I think that's a valid question. Are the teachers targeting this race of kids or a certain kid that is a certain race and is showing up disproportionately high? That's a valid concern. That's something that should be investigated. But what it turned out was, what they did was say, okay, well, we're going to stop you from being able to expel any kids from school because a disproportionate amount of Black kids in this situation were being expelled from school. So you can't expel anybody. And then the next year they went and did a victory lap saying, look, we fixed our problem. We don't have a disproportionate number of Black kids being expelled anymore. Well, of course you don't. You don't expel anybody. That doesn't fix anything. You just kept the problem in the schools. Now they've got a problem. They can't get rid of a kid. Expelling a kid's no easy feat. It's nothing they take lightly. So it's kind of amazing to me that that's their solution. That's what this DEI policy is to liquidate it. Well, now it's not the case. If there's a kid causing a problem, it should be done on a case-by-case basis per child. And if that disproportionately affects a certain race, again, go ahead and find out if you want to do an investigation to see if they're being targeted. But if not, let the discipline take place.
Correct. And if you look back at the way our forefathers set up our judicial system, it was based on actions, not anything else.
Right.
And that's the way our judicial system should be today is you did this act, here is the consequence. Not like Mary Moriarty, where she says, well, because you're part of this group, we'll ignore that you just did $20,000 in damages to people's vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
It's systemic racism being introduced in the system. They keep complaining about systemic racism being in the system. No, you are actually introducing it yourselves into the system.
Correct. Yep.
I want to do our national one last, but I have a couple more things to bring up, and it's kind of going back to Duluth and then Minnesota. We'll start with the Minnesota one. I'm going to share this screen. And this ought to scare you more than anything. And this goes down to Waltz and, back to Minnesota and Waltz. And this is something to do with our Duluth News Tribune endorsed a Republican or a Democratic representative, Alicia Kozlowski. They now have 17,000 illegal aliens enrolled in Minnesota Care. This is something you pay for, I pay for, people listening pay for. The illegal immigrants don't. The illegal aliens don't pay for it. 17,000 just in 2025 alone. They just introduced this. This has got to stop. I don't want to pay for somebody for some other country to come here and then pay for their health care. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop. And it's not something that can continue to go on.
And if they're talking a $6 billion deficit, that's an easy cut. That's a no-brainer cut.
Right. Exactly.
Get rid of all that.
Yeah, they're not.
I mean, Walz sits there and thinks that is lying to everyone, was saying that Trump's going to cut Medicaid and Medicare and all this. He already said 1,000 times he's not going to do it. But Walz introducing illegals into the Medicare Medicaid system, that hurts Minnesotans.
Right. Exactly.
We have to pay the tax. We have to wait in line. Now we have to wait for someone that doesn't even belong here to get in to see our doctor, and so on and so forth.
Right. Exactly. So it's ridiculous. It needs to stop. Let's get rid of this. Let's get some common sense back. I'm going to go back to Duluth for one more thing, and that is there's a guy named Derek Medved. I don't know if you've heard of him. He ran for city council and won. He's running again. He won and then he quit. I don't know if he finished his term or not. I think he did, but then he's coming back now. He's 30 years old and he's running for city council at large. And so I just wanted to take a mention that people should check him out. I think he does a really good job. He's a business owner. He's done a lot of really good things, especially for West Duluth. I listened to him speak once. He's an interesting guy. I'll tell you that. He's had an interesting life so far, but I'm not saying vote for him. I'm saying check him out. I think he looks good. I don't know him enough about him to really give him an endorsement yet, but I think.
Is that the mayor behind him?
That does look like him, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if that is or not, but it definitely looks like
I don't know. It does look like him.
Yeah.
And some people I know like him a lot. And I take their opinions seriously. So that's good for Duluth, but let's move on to our last topic. And I want to say that I'd like to be surprised by this. This is now going into talking about Ukraine, which of course it's so important to the United States that we have to talk about it all the time. But Macron from France has said that European countries will demand that any peace deal has to include Ukraine's territorial integrity. So they're weighing in. France is weighing in on this. Do nothing, France. And they're making demands on any peace deal that happens with Ukraine and Russia. And if I've ever seen a country or countries that wanted a world war, I have not seen it as much as I have seen it in Great Britain, Germany, and France. They are itching, I think, for a war with Russia. I don't know if it's because they think their economies are going to collapse. They keep talking about this threat that Russia is making, and it doesn't seem to me to be real. And all I can say is if they do get a war in Russia or a war with Russia, that the United States doesn't get involved. It's not our job. It's not for us to send young men and women to die for some stupidity because France doesn't want to cede a small part of the country to another country, which they have no opinion on. They have no involvement in. So I just think it's sad that every time they seem to weigh in, it seems to try to be to pull us into a war.
And the best thing about it is now with Trump in office, Macron from France will be completely ignored.
Yes. Thank God.
Because Trump is an America first person. He doesn't care what France thinks. He will never think what France thinks. Unless they're going to come to the table and bargain, because they got hit with tariffs, and Macron already quit trying to be a man, and he subsided. So he's in talks with America about the tariffs. So Macron is weak. Trump doesn't care about what he thinks, which is great.
Right.
So if they want to start a war, they can start a war with Russia. That's on them.
And the interesting thing is too, that people that defend this, well, Zelensky, he's for Ukraine. He's for Ukraine first. Well, Macron is France. He's France first. And they all go for that except for United States. The United States can never be United States first. Then you're a xenophobe, and how dare you?
Right.
My position is my family, my city, my state, my country. You start taking care of things that are closest to you first. And if everybody does that, it takes care of itself. It's not a selfish thing. It's the smart thing to do.
Correct.
You can't be sitting here in Duluth, Minnesota, grinding your teeth and balling your fists together because something's happening in Ukraine and Russia. It has nothing to do with you. And some people can't accept that. They just can't accept the fact that they're not that important.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe that's part of the reason why they're, throwing fits at restaurants and spray painting and, scratching people's cars and doing damage and, domestic terrorism.
Right.
Because you're a weak human being to begin with, and you're not prioritizing what you should be prioritizing.
Well, and I'm hoping that somebody who hears this, it snaps in their head. They think, yeah, you're right. Maybe I do need to take a step back. Maybe if I'm getting this angry, why am I getting this angry? Do some self-reflection on that stuff. All right, let's wrap it up here. Let's stop on an end. And I don't have a little cute puppy story or anything like that. So we'll talk about health and fitness. I've been able to get 3 runs in this week. I was able to get through this, whatever virus I had, whatever coughing I was doing. Running helped me quite a bit, get all the stuff out of my lungs. So I have not done a good solid weight workout though because of it. On the days that I should be going to the gym, I'm going running instead. So I'll do it when the weather is okay. But I do need to get in there and do a lifting session at some point. How about you?
I'm the exact opposite. I've been doing a lot of weightlifting and going to the gym, but I have been doing very little cardio.
Yeah.
I need to, once I got a doctor's appointment next week. Once I deal with him, then we'll start getting running again. So
that sounds kind of ominous. What are you going to do to the guy? Once I deal with him.
Well, which is a side note, because I talked to a bunch of people this over the Easter weekend. Is I don't think doctors are as smart as they're supposed to be, and they're very much controlled by the health insurance industry. So if it doesn't make sense to you when you're talking to your doctor about taking prescription drugs, then don't take them, or make some discussions, or have some discussions with them. Go online and research what they're giving you. You have to be your own proponent of what you want or what's best for you. So if they tell you to do something, research it, figure it out, and then make the decision if you're going to do it.
Right. And if you go to the hospital, have somebody with you. All right. I'm going to end it now. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you liked it. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.